Welcome to the Southeast Asian nation of Myanmar, commonly known as Burma, and this is where our rescue program is taking place today. Welcome to Rescuers, and today we're on the far side of the world, about as far away as you can get, in the Southeast Asian nation of Myanmar, commonly known as Burma, and we're just having a wonderful time here. Myanmar borders the Bay of Bengal, India, China, Bangladesh, and Thailand. From its tens of thousands of Buddhist temples to the modern architecture of the capital Yangon, or Rangoon as we pronounce it, to its serene beauty of the Irrawaddy River and the Shan Plateau. Over 47 million people call this home. Myanmar is a country of contrast, and the contrasts are everywhere. Yangon is a modern Asian city, Mandalay a city of 1,000 temples, and the rest of the country a blend of the two. On the streets of Yangon, people jam the streets at rush hour to get to work hurriedly, passing monks who walk barefoot through these same streets, traveling from house to house, begging for their only meal that they will eat today. While one group of people will spend their day in an American-type work environment, the monks will eat their one meal and spend the rest of the day in prayer and meditation. The contrast can even be felt in the language. Burmese, Chin, Karen, Shun, and Kachins make up a few of the dozens of racial and ethnic groups, and each group speaks their own language. For example, to say hello in Burmese, you say Mingalaba. In Chin, it is Nadama. The languages are not even close. As contrasting as the language is, so is the pace of the culture. Yangon is as modern as most Southeast Asian cities. Just outside of the city, it's not unusual to see a bicycle rickshaw or an ox or horse cart being passed by a modern car. To fully understand this nation, we must understand its main influencer. Even though Yangon is a modern city, persecution of Christians still persists. And even though Buddhism has a stranglehold on this nation, Christians see an even greater threat. When we come back, we'll explore Myanmar one more time and find out what this threat is all about. Welcome back to Rescuers, and behind me is the Shwedagon Pagoda. It is the largest Buddhist temple in the nation of Myanmar, and we're here today to just talk about what God is doing here. But I want to let you know I can't be my normal exuberant self for this program, because in this culture there's really two reasons. Number one, they don't like journalists here, and sometimes I don't blame them, because most journalists just report the bad news, and we're here to tell the good news about what God is doing. And secondly, this culture is not about being very demonstrative. There's not a lot of loud, boisterous noise like most of us Americans are involved, and that's part of the cultural difference between our culture and there. But during this program, we want to talk about what Christians feel is the greatest threat in this nation. Even though persecution of Christians is happening regularly in Myanmar, many see persecution as an opportunity for God to show himself as powerful. However, they do see a different kind of threat to the people. Each year, thousands are orphaned. Orphans have little chance of survival. In Myanmar, children are not orphaned due to the mass slaughter of Christians like many in North Korea are. So why are so many orphaned?
Well, some of the children are true orphans. That is, their parents have died for various reasons, malaria, cancer, various diseases. They're very poor. They don't have expenses to pay for medical treatment, so many of their parents have died. I'd probably say about a third of the children are true orphans. Probably another third of them are children whose parents have been divorced, and in this country, once the parents are divorced, if the mother wants to get remarried, she can't get a job, and so she to support herself, so she gets remarried. Her husband will not accept the children, and so the children wind up being pretty much abandoned. And another third of them are children whose parents are so poor that they can't provide for them. And so probably those three reasons.
Hundreds of orphanages are scattered around the country. The men and women who are caring for the children didn't necessarily start out wanting to have an orphanage. Our sister had a steady job, but found herself to be widowed, and God broke her heart for the orphans.
I'm working in the state high school. I really have a heart for the orphans. And then sometimes I give them sleepers, sometimes I give them things that I can help them. So from that moment, I really have a heart for the orphans in the area.
Our brother had been evangelizing, sharing the good news all over Myanmar for 2 years. But after that, the Lord began to break his heart for something more.
After that, I felt in my heart that this is the work I must have carry on.
Some began to care for the orphan because they too were orphaned. Pakimi was orphaned at the age of 9, and because of that situation, God broke her heart for the orphans of Myanmar.
I prayed to the Lord if I could start an orphan, and by this way, I started this ministry. It has been 30 years that I has been working for this ministry. From the very beginning, I have nothing, but I trust the Lord, since our God is Jehovah Jireh.
It is God who opened up the door for Pakimi to have an orphanage. He moved miraculously and also moved on the hearts of the people.
Since I started this ministry, many people have special gift, and then till today, we never feel any hungry. The Lord is always providing us whatever we need for every day. Many people talk about I am a fool and uneducated. But anyhow, the Lord provided me many good men who can speak and who can write on behalf of me.
Pakimi is presently caring for over 90 children. And I asked her, when will you stop taking the children in?
No, I never imagine any stop. I depend on the Lord, and if it is the will of God, I will accept again and again, and more children will come to my place.
Regardless of how they came to care for the children, each one is daily laying down their life for the children of Myanmar. They sacrifice to care for the children, giving them what little they have. If they don't, the cost could be very, very high. You see, if a child is orphaned, they're taken to be raised by a Buddhist monk or a nun. David's servant came to encourage the pastors, but what he found stretched and challenged him.
After the first pastors' conference, some of those pastors came to me and showed me some of their orphanages, and I just couldn't believe what I saw. Children were living in just the worst conditions, just in abject poverty, sleeping in little thatched rooms with dirt floors and so forth. And they said to me, "Can you do something?" And I said, I really can't do anything. I'll give you the money I have in my pocket, but our ministry is just making it barely as it is. So, but I promise them, if the Lord helps me, or if I get an idea, then we'll do something, whatever we can do for you. So we did get an idea to try to find people who would sponsor children at these orphanages, and more orphanages opened up year by year till now. We're able to help almost 30 orphanages in Myanmar.
The men and women who run the orphanages in Myanmar really sacrifice it all to care for the children. When we come back, I want you to take a walk in the shoes of one of these orphan children. We'll be right back after this.
Moses was brought to Faith Orphanage in Burma in 2002 after being taken care of by some of his relatives for 3 years. He had become too much of a financial burden for them, as they were struggling to feed their own children. Moses is now 9 years old. Moses is awakened every morning at 5:30 along with the rest of the 33 children who live at Faith Orphanage. After washing their faces, hands, and feet, they gather together for a half hour of morning worship and prayer. It is obvious that the children have a sincere relationship with God. After morning devotions, all of the children have chores. Moses' responsibility is to water garden plants. The orphanage grows onions, garlic, and mustard leaves. Water is carried from the stream directly behind the orphanage property. When Moses first arrived at Faith Orphanage, the children lived in a small and very crowded rented house on a tiny suburban lot. Now they have ground for growing a garden and a water source, two great blessings. After chores, the children go back inside their new dormitory that is still under construction in order to spend time preparing for school by studying their lessons. Meanwhile, the orphanage workers are busy preparing breakfast in the kitchen, which consists of pots over an open fire. Food is purchased every morning at the marketplace for the day's 3 meals. Before Orphans Tier began assisting Faith Orphanage, some days the children went to school hungry, but no longer. Once the children are done with their morning studies, they are free to play before breakfast. Soccer is the preferred game, and an actual soccer ball is a luxury. Children in Myanmar often play soccer with a ball made of rags tied tightly together. The children of Faith Orphanage also consider themselves very blessed to have space for playing a soccer game. After the game, the children wash their feet again and gather at the kitchen. Breakfast is generally the same every day. Rice with beans, mustard leaves, tomatoes, and a cup of soup. As soon as breakfast is over, it's just a 5-minute walk to school. In Myanmar, school is not free. Only children whose parents are able to afford school fees receive an education. Your monthly gift provides the school fees for your sponsored child. Children are taught primarily by memorization, and they spend all of their time in school shouting out their recitations. After 3 hours, the children break for lunch and head home.
Did you notice that breakfast? You know, for children in Myanmar, receiving 3 meals a day is a luxury. Receiving an education is a luxury. And especially having someone care for them is a luxury. See, someone cared for Moses. That's why he's a happy kid. Well, we've gone through half the day with him. And when we come back, we'll finish the rest of his story. Welcome back to Rescuers. You know, life in Myanmar can be difficult, especially for its most vulnerable, the children. Many men and women of God sacrifice on a daily basis to care for the orphaned. In our program today, we're focusing in on the work being done by Orphans Tier among the orphanages of Myanmar. Correspondent Stephen Servant has provided us with a report on the day in the life of Moses, an orphan in Myanmar. Now, while life is difficult compared to an American child, this child is most blessed. Here's the conclusion of that report.
Before lunch, there are chores for everyone. Moses' job today is to clean the single outhouse used by all 34 children. Lunch begins with a song. Of course, the main staple of the meal is rice, along with beans and soup. Orphans Tier has just purchased 8 acres of land for Faith Orphanage and 2 oxen to plow that land so that they can become more self-sustaining. There is some time to play after lunch. Then it is back to school for another 3 hours of shouting recitations. School lets out at 4 o'clock and Moses heads back to Faith Orphanage. This is the best part of the day for Moses. The daily soccer game can last for hours, and Moses is a very good player. All of the children play in their bare feet. As the sun begins to set, all the children help water the garden once again. Everyone pitches in according to his or her own ability. Sometimes, if the director isn't too close by, the children can't resist a forbidden temptation. they'll have to pay for this crime with a soap bath using clean well water. After their bath, the children play a game of tag, and as darkness descends, enjoy a simple dinner and then spend some time studying their school lessons again. Before bed, they gather for evening devotions, and they never forget to pray for their sponsors. Thanks for being one.
Moses had nowhere to go, but someone like you reached out and made a difference in his life. You know, the children of Myanmar are depending upon us to make a difference. If you would like to help, contact your local church. Or if you'd like to help Orphans Tier, you can contact them at this address. As always, you're making a difference in the world through your prayers and through your giving. David's Servant and Orphans Tier is changing the world every day, and you can as well. Thank you for watching Rescuers. We'll see you next time on this program.
Oh, this ministry is awesome. I would love to see every American become involved, believer or not, because the humanitarian aspect is enough for the unbeliever. They're sending out missionaries. They're helping the widows and the orphans. They're encouraging the body of Christ in places where there are no encouragers.
It's awesome. They're doing a wonderful thing, and I'm very excited about going back home and spreading the word even further about what's going on here and getting more help for these orphans.
Highlighted this trip has been obviously visiting the children.
Cornerstone Television wishes to thank all our faithful viewers whose consistent prayers and financial support have made this program possible.